Good evening, BookTube. This is Johnny. I thought I'd make a video. It's been a couple of days. Hope you're all doing well, that you're not sick during this plague, the Red Death. Here in western Michigan, it is 9:25 at night. Here on April the 4th, 2020 is a Saturday night. And I thought I'd make a video since I don't really know what else to do with myself. I mean, I've been reading all day, writing in my diary, watching BookTube, talking to my wife, watching the birds. I did some yard work outside with my wife. And yeah, the day went by kind of peacefully, which we are thankful for, that we are not sick, that we have food and shelter. Tonight I got a book in the mail this week that I had pre-ordered. It's called American Radicals: How 19th-Century Protests Shaped the Nation by Holly Jackson. I've been reading this pretty steadily the last couple of days. Also, I've been reading in the mornings still The Wonderful Works of God, which the full title is The Wonderful Works of God, Instruction in the Christian Religion According to the Reformed Confession by Herman Bavinck. And so I've been reading that. Also been reading in the mornings Canon, Covenant, and Christology, Rethinking Jesus and the Scriptures of Israel by Matthew Barrett. So I did finish reading this novel, a novel, Bookstore by Laurence, Cosse, translated from the French by Alison Anderson. I read this, well, I kind of skimmed read towards the end of it because I was getting kind of, was going to D and F it. I was going to just give it up. And I didn't really, it was okay. I suppose I give it like, well, if you're into books and starting a bookstore and having dreams of starting a bookstore and all that's involved in that, then you might like it. But besides that, it kind of, I didn't really enjoy it. So I don't recommend it. But if you're into bookstores and starting a bookstore and all that's involved and getting a space and buying the books and knowing what books that you want to sell in your bookstore and all the things that involve in starting a bookstore, you might find this somewhat interesting, but I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it. It was used, you can see it was withdrawn from Geneva Public District Library, 127th James Street, Geneva, Illinois. I paid a couple of dollars for it, but I didn't really enjoy it. And then I got back out of the lower level, a book that I started reading last year, and I got it back out yesterday, and I've been reading this. It's called Abel and Cain by Gregor Von Rezzori, translated from the German by David Dollenmayer, Joachim and Marshall Yarbrough. I can't pronounce those names. So yeah, I've been reading this. It's pretty. It's a very big book. It has 861 pages. Now it's two novels in one. You have Abel. The full title is Abel, The Death of My Brother Abel. Then the second volume is Cain, The Last Manuscript. Now I have read since 2019 451 pages of the death of my brother Abel. And it's a kind of novel that you can pick up and just read. It doesn't really have a clear narrative structure to it. But I've been reading this the last couple of days, yesterday and today. I also have it, originally I had this edition of it, The Death of My Brother Abel by Gregor Von Rezzori, who wrote Memoirs of an Anti-Semitic. I bought this at a used bookstore in Grand Haven a couple of years ago. It says in the back, in a Paris hotel room, a man is trying to assemble a novel, The Death of My Brother Abel, from autobiographical notes. It is an astonishing masterpiece, a collage of luminous fragments about his youth before World War II and his experience in Germany during and after the war, of sardonic and passionate set pieces about love and work, sex and writing, families and nations, of a dreamlike narrations of his inner longings and outward intentions, dazzling in its wit, scope, and narrative power. Gregor Von Rezzori's novel stands alongside the works of Musso, Mann, and Grass as a landmark in 20th century literature. Now, I agree with that. It's pretty dazzling. That's a good description. I've said in past videos, this is one of my favorite books I read last year, and I still am always amazed when I read it. It's just dazzling. And I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. So I've been reading that along with American Radicals in the afternoons and evenings. And like I said, I found the novel Bookstore. I didn't really enjoy it. If you like about books and wondering what kind of books you would sell in a bookstore that wanted the very best literature, you might like reading this. I would check it out of the library, but I wouldn't buy it, but it's okay. I mean, it's okay if you're into bookstores and books about books and people who love literature and about writers and all what's involved in starting a bookstore, things like that. As far as my diary for the April 2020, I ended on page 348 for today. And tomorrow is April the 5th, 2020. Tomorrow's a Sunday. We go into the week of April, and we'll see how the plague goes here in West Michigan. So yeah, as far as I keep thinking about these verses in the book of Isaiah. It says, I keep thinking about these verses, and I thought about reading them. It says, behold the nations, this is in chapter 40 of the prophecy of Isaiah. And I keep thinking about this as kind of a perspective as we're going through this plague, this virus, this thing that's this pandemic throughout the world. And this is the kind of thing I keep thinking about when I read the news and hear the news and people dying in cities and healthcare systems being overloaded and just the collapse of our economy and 10 million people being applying for unemployment here in America. I keep thinking of these verses in the prophecy of Isaiah, chapter 40. Behold, the nations are as a drop in a bucket and are counted as a small dust on the scales. Look, He lifts up the isles as a very little thing, and Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor is its beasts sufficient for a burnt offering. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted by him less than nothing and worthless. To whom then will you liken God, or what likeness will you compare to him? The workman molds an image, and a goldsmith overspreads it with gold, and the silversmith casts silver chains. Whoever is too impoverished for such a contribution chooses a tree that will not rot. He seeks for himself a skillful workman to prepare a carved image that will not totter. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he who sits above the circle of the earth. Its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. He brings the princes to nothing. He makes the judges of the earth useless. Scarcely shall they be planted, scarcely shall they be sown, scarcely shall their stock take root in the earth, when he will also blow on them, and they will wither, and with the whirlwind will take them away like stubble. To whom will you liken me? Or to whom shall I be equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on high, and see who has created these things, who brings out their hosts by number. He calls them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and by the strength of his power. Not one is missing. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, and my just claim is passed over by my God? Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is weary. Neither faints nor is weary. His understanding is unsearchable. His power, he gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might he increases strength. And the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength, and they shall mount up with wings like eagles, and they shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. I like that verse there in 29 of chapter 40 of Isaiah. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, he increases strength. So in these days of trial and difficulty and sickness and death, we need to pray for strength, perseverance in these dark times. And he says here, even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength, and shall mount up with wings like eagles, and they shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. So that keeps coming through my mind as I look at this pestilence, this plague that's throughout the earth, throughout the United States. We need strength and perseverance as we go through this dark time. So I hope you're all safe, that you're all well, that you're not sick. Hope you're in the midst of these difficult times of isolation, and that you're having a good reading week, that you'll have a good new reading week coming up next week as we go into another week of April 2020. Here in West Michigan, where my wife and I are just hanging out together. We're not going anywhere. Everything is closed and shut down. And so yeah, we just stay in the attitude of prayer, supplication, crying out to the Lord that he have mercy upon us. So I just want to stop by and say that I'm thinking about you and praying for you, and that yeah. So once again, I thank you for the new subscribers and for the comments, and feel free to share anything with me, what your prayer request or what you're reading or what's on your mind. And yeah, so until next time, bye.